We are also following the desperate search for a pregnant mother and her 2 young daughters mysteriously disappearing from their home in Colorado, north of Denver. The father saying he last saw his wife Monday morning after the two had a, quote, emotional conversation the night before.
We're gonna find them, right? I need your help.
And I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling well. I've called, I've texted. Her car's in the garage. Her shoes she wears every single day are by the front door. I'm just worried sick. I don't know where she's at. This is completely unlike her.
This isn't right. I don't know what to do right now. If they're not safe, that's what's tearing me apart.
Look at this man. His pregnant wife is missing. His 4-year-old and 3-year-old daughters are gone. He's standing in front of news cameras, pleading for them to come home.
Somebody has her and they're not safe. Like, I want them back now.
He says he wants them back. He says the house feels like a ghost town. But he isn't crying. He isn't shaking. At moments, he almost seems calm. Why? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why, and you won't be able to unsee it. If you scrolled through Shannon Watt's Facebook page in 2018, you saw the American dream. Shannon was a 34-year-old force of nature. Born in New Jersey and raised in North Carolina, she was a go-getter.
But I'm not a quitter. And my goal was to buy a house. My family doesn't come from money. We always worked hard for what we had. And so I worked and worked and worked and worked. And I was 25 years old when I built my first house. And that was the biggest accomplishment I felt I've ever done because I did it by myself.
Despite battling lupus, an autoimmune disease that ravaged her body, she built a thriving career in direct sales for a health and wellness company called Level. She earned bonuses, free trips, and a Lexus. Watts was happy with her life. She loved her 2 little girls, Bella and Celeste, affectionately called Cece. And seemingly, she fiercely loved her husband, Chris. Chris was Shannon's polar opposite. Where she was loud, outgoing, and dominant, Chris was quiet, submissive, and shy. They met through Facebook in 2010. Shannon later said that Chris accepted her at her lowest point, loving her through health struggles. They married in 2012, packed up, and moved to a beautiful 5-bedroom home in Frederick, Colorado. Chris got a job as an operator for Anadarko Petroleum, and Shannon ran her business from her phone. To the outside world, they had it all. But behind those doors, the foundation was crumbling. By 2015, the couple was drowning in debt. They filed for bankruptcy, citing over $70,000 in credit card debt, medical bills, and student loans. Still, they kept up appearances. But in the summer of 2018, the financial strain became the least of Shannon's problems. Chris was changing. He lost weight. He started working out obsessively. He grew distant, cold, and detached. Shannon thought he was just stressed. She had no idea her husband was living a completely separate life. In June 2018, Chris struck up a conversation with Nicole Kessinger. He told her he had kids, but claimed he and his wife were separated and finalizing a divorce. This was a complete lie. In reality, Shannon was newly pregnant with their 3rd child, a boy they planned to name Nico.
That's awesome. Guess when you want to, it happens.
Chris became obsessed. While Shannon packed up the girls for a 5-week visit to family in North Carolina, Chris stayed behind in Colorado. He spent every free moment with Nicole. They went to the sand dunes, visited car museums, and slept in his marital bed. To hide his affair, Chris downloaded a secret calculator app on his phone. If anyone looked, it appeared to be a standard calculator. But if he typed in a secret passcode, it unlocked a hidden vault of explicit photos, videos, and messages between him and Nicole. While Chris played Bachelor, Shannon agonized in North Carolina. Chris ignored her calls. He rejected her romantic texts. Shannon texted her friends, terrified her marriage was falling apart. She bought relationship self-help books. She begged Chris to communicate. Chris didn't want to save the marriage. He wanted a new life. And he decided his family stood in the way. Then, on August 13th, 2018, 1:48 a.m., Shannon arrives home from a brief weekend business trip to Arizona. Her friend and colleague, Nicole Atkinson, drops her off. Shannon rolls her suitcase up the driveway, walks through the front door, and is never seen alive again. Just hours later, the sun rises over Frederick, Colorado. Nicole Atkinson texts Shannon to check on her. No reply. She calls, goes straight to voicemail. Shannon misses a doctor's appointment to hear her baby's heartbeat. Nicole knows instantly. Something is terribly wrong. By noon, Nicole drives to the Watts home. She knocks. No answer. She looks through the window and sees Shannon's everyday shoes sitting by the door. Her car is parked in the garage. Nicole calls the police.
And I dropped her off at 2 o'clock this morning. She's 15 weeks pregnant. She wasn't feeling well. I've called, I've texted. Her car's in the garage. Her shoes she wears every single day are right in the front door.
When Officer Coonrod arrives, he calls Chris. Chris casually states he is at work and will be home soon. When Chris finally pulls up, his behavior sends alarm bells ringing through the neighborhood. Chris opens the garage. He goes inside alone for a full minute before letting the police in. What do you do in a minute when you think no one's watching? Inside, they find Shannon's phone shoved between the couch cushions. Her purse, her ID, and the girl's critical medication remains in the house.
That's her purse. It's her medication. She takes these, her medication's still in here.
The beds are stripped. Chris claims they had an emotional conversation about separating, and Shannon simply left for a friend's house.
You guys having any kind of issues, marital issues, or?
We're going through separation.
You are? How's that going?
It's going
Civil for the most
civil.
part, or?
But police zero in on the neighbor's house. The neighbor, Nate, has a security camera pointed directly at Chris's driveway. When police review the footage, Chris stands in the living room, sweating, pacing, putting his hands on his head. He blabbers nervously about toolboxes and work gear. The camera proves one undeniable fact. No one left that house except Chris Watts. At 5:18 a.m., Chris backed his work truck entirely into the driveway, something he never did, loaded up his truck, and drove away. Nate, the neighbor, looks at the officer and whispers the truth before anyone realizes it.
No.
Rocking back and forth, and if you look, he never moves his stuff in and out of the garage ever.
Right.
He doesn't look worried. He looks like he's trying to cover his tracks.
2 days pass. The FBI and Colorado Bureau of Investigation step in. They invite Chris to the police station for a polygraph test. Agent Tammy Lee hooks Chris up to the machine. She asks him point blank,
"Did you physically cause Shanann's disappearance?"
No.
Are you lying about the last time you saw Shanann?
No.
Do you know where Shanann is now?
No.
He fails. And he doesn't just fail, he bombs it. He scores a -18, a staggeringly low score that screams deception.
You did not pass the polygraph test.
Okay.
Okay.
I did not lie on this polygraph. I am.
It's not even an option right now because you did not pass the polygraph, so I know you were being deceptive. So that's not even an issue right now. The issue right now is what happened to Shanann, Bella, and Celeste.
Now the psychological warfare begins. Agents Lee and Cotter knew Chris is guilty. They also knew Chris is a narcissist who cares deeply about his image. So, they give him a scapegoat. They plant a seed. Watch Chris's face change. They offer him a story where he isn't a monster.
Okay, like you'd hire somebody, or you have somebody you know that would do it. I mean, it's like it's hard. It's
And
a hard question to
I know this stuff.
It's a hard question to answer.
Right.
Because it had nothing to do with this disappearance.
Right.
So like, I don't even want to think about like if you're asking like how I would do it. Like
Anyone. Like
anyone
how would anyone cause someone else's disappearance?
I mean, you would. I said like.
You could cause someone's disappearance by murdering them.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Yes.
So what different physical ways could you cause someone's disappearance through murder? You could stab someone,
Stab
right?
someone, shoot someone, hit them with a blunt object. What else is there? I mean, use a weapon like gun or knife. I mean,
Okay.
you could.
You could smother someone. You could strangle someone.
Hang someone. I mean, yeah, you can. All that kind of things. I mean.
Chris confesses, but it's a lie. He claims he'd caught Shannon strangling the girls on the baby's monitor, and in a blind rage, he strangled Shannon. The investigators don't believe this for a single second. No parent finds their children blue in bed, murders their spouse, and then hides all 3 bodies in crude oil. But the police take the partial confession because they need one thing above all else: the location of the bodies. They let his father, Ronnie Watts, into the room, and there, whispering to his dad, Chris finally breaks.
Can you tell us what you told your dad?
I saw on the monitor, those covers were like pulled off and she was laying there. She was blue. She was in there with her.
What happened?
I put my hands around my wife's neck and did that same thing.
Chris marks a photo on his work site, Survey 319, showing where he dumped his family. What the recovery teams endure the next morning is the stuff of nightmares. They find a shallow, hastily dug grave in the dirt. Inside is Shannon, curled in the fetal position. But where are the girls? Investigators climb to the top of 2 towering 400-barrel crude oil tanks. They open the small thief hatches, openings only 8 inches wide. On the rim of the hatch, they find a single tuft of blonde hair. In full hazmat suits, risking toxic gas inhalation, the recovery team drains the oil. Inside the east tank, they find 3-year-old Cece, still in her diaper. Inside the west tank, they find a 4-year-old. Chris Watts didn't just kill his family. He disposed of his daughters like garbage, shoving their tiny bodies through 8-inch steel holes into toxic sludge, ensuring they would dissolve and never be found. Chris Watts is arrested and charged with multiple counts of first-degree murder. Facing the undeniable evidence, the GPS data, and the horrific crime scene, Chris takes a plea deal to avoid the death penalty. He pleads guilty to all charges. But the story doesn't end there. Months later, sitting in a maximum security prison in Wisconsin, Chris Watts finally tells the real story. And it is infinitely worse than anyone imagined. From the confines of a prison cell, Chris reveals the chilling sequence of events. He didn't just snap in a fit of rage. He planned it. As he tucked his daughter into bed on Sunday night, he looked at them and thought, "This is the last time I will ever tuck my babies in." Before Shannon ever got home, Chris walked into his daughter's bedrooms and smothered them with her own pillows. Then, he went to his master bedroom. When Shannon arrived, they argued. He told her he didn't love her anymore. Shannon cried and told him he would never see his kids again. In cold blood, Chris pinned her down and strangled her. He didn't look away. He watched the life drain from his pregnant wife's eyes. But then, the unthinkable happened. Bella and Cece woke up. Chris had failed to kill them. Chris wrapped Shannon's body in a bedsheet and dragged her down the stairs. He backed his truck in, and he loaded his dead wife into the back floorboard. Then, he put his 2 living, terrified daughters into the back seat, right next to their mother's corpse. He drove for nearly an hour into the desolate Colorado plains. In the back seat, the girls clutched their blankets. When they arrived at Survey 319, Chris pulled Shannon from the truck and buried her in the dirt. Then, he returned to the truck. He took a blanket, placed it over 3-year-old Cece's face, and smothered her while her older sister watched. He carried Cece up the stairs and dropped her into the oil tank. He returned to 4-year-old Bella. Bella, knowing exactly what was about to happen, fought for her life. She looked up at the man who was supposed to protect her and cried out her final words. "Daddy, no." Chris smothered her. He carried her up the steel stairs and forced her into the second tank. He later told investigators he felt no remorse in that moment. He just felt free. Free to pursue his new life with his mistress. He drove back to normal life, texted his coworkers, called the girls' preschool to unenroll them, and ate pizza. On November 19th, 2018, Chris Watts faced his sentencing. The courtroom was heavy with unimaginable grief. 2 additional counts related to the manner in which the children had been killed.
Murder in the first degree as it relates to Shanann Watts. The court is going to sentence you, sir, to a life sentence in the Colorado Department of Corrections, followed with no possibility of parole. And that is going to run consecutively to all but counts 3 and 4. With regard to count 2, as it relates to murder in the first degree with Bella, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole.
The judge sentenced him to 5 consecutive life sentences with no possibility of parole. He would never again be a free man. He would die in prison.
With regard to count number 3, the court is going to sentence you as it relates to Celeste to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections with no possibility of parole. With regard to counts 4 and 5 relating to Bella and Celeste as a different theory of first-degree murder, the court is going to sentence you to life in the Colorado Department of Corrections, and legally those sentences must run concurrently as a different theory of first-degree murder. Recognizing the unlawful termination of pregnancy for the unborn child that has been named Nico, the court absolutely believes that the maximum sentence of 48 years would be appropriate.
Colorado had been considering reinstating the death penalty for this case. In the end, prosecutors accepted the plea deal, in part to spare Shannon's family from having to sit through a trial and relive every detail in open court.
With an additional mandatory parole period of 3 years as set forth by statute. With regard to count number 7 as it relates to tampering with a deceased body,
Frank and Sandra Rutziak were present for the sentencing. They did not look at Chris Watts when he was let out. Listen to the words of Shannon's father, Frank Rutziak.
May the courts have no mercy on you. It's hard every day. It hurts in so many ways. I have heard people say that you're not a monster. No, you are not. You're an evil monster. Thank you. Love you, Shannon, Bella, and Nico. Love you, Pop and Dad. And one other thing. And Shannon says she is super excited for justice today. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
The judge sentenced Chris Watts to 5 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. The ripple effects of his evil shattered countless lives. The lead detective on the case, Dave Bonhoeffer, developed severe PTSD from the horrific recovery of the children. He couldn't even look at little girls in a grocery store without having flashbacks. He eventually had to resign. Agent Tammy Lee broke down sobbing in a hair salon days later, haunted by the memory of Bella's pink pajamas. And Nicole Kessinger, Chris's mistress, she gave several contradictory interviews to the police, wiped her phone of evidence, and fled the public eye. She assumed a new identity, leaving true crime followers forever debating her exact level of involvement or knowledge. Today, Chris Watts sits in a maximum security prison in Wisconsin. He claims to have found God. He claims he reads books about his family in his cell, but he will never breathe free air again. We remember Shannon Watts not as a victim, but as a fierce, loving mother who fought for her family until her dying breath. We remember Bella, the sweet girl who loved her daddy, and Cece, the spunky toddler who lit up every room. The Chris Watts case haunts us because it shatters our fundamental sense of safety. He wasn't a notorious criminal or a street thug. He was the quiet guy mowing the lawn and a smiling father carrying his daughter on his shoulders. It leaves us with a chilling, inescapable question. If a man like Chris Watts can brutally slaughter his pregnant wife and children just to start a new relationship, how well do you really know the person sleeping next to you? Most people scrolled past this family story. That means something. If you want to keep hearing the cases the world tries to forget, please subscribe. We won't let them be forgotten.